Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest Alan Cohen, and he's here today to share with us not only his new book, but how we can develop prosperity through spirituality. Now, Alan is the author of 27 popular inspirational books, including the bestseller, The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore, the award-winning book, A Deep Breath of Life, and the classic, Are You as Happy as Your Dog? He is a contributing writer for the New York Times #1 bestseller series, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and his books have been translated into 25 foreign languages. Alan's work has been featured on Oprah.com, USA Today, The Washington Post, and 101 top experts. Alan's radio program, Get Real, is broadcast weekly on Hay House Radio, and his monthly column, From the Heart, is featured in magazines internationally. So let's welcome to the show, Alan Cohen.
Hi, Marianne. It's always great to be with you.
Oh, what a pleasure it is that we get to do this again. You're one of my top inspiration people. I love seeing your posts. And now we've got a new book, and how exciting is that?
Very much. Thank you so much.
Well, and so what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I've been working for many years with clients and coaching who are struggling with money and business and spirituality and passion. And a lot of them just can't seem to get it together. On one hand, you have people who work in the corporate world who are getting paid pretty well and they have benefits, but they hate their work because they feel like they're a slave to the corporation and the corporation doesn't really acknowledge them. I get people who are entrepreneurs and they're actually following their passion, but they're hustling to try to make ends meet. And then I get artists, creative, spiritual, new age types who really don't care about money and they'd rather just be painting or meditating, but they have to figure out how to earn a living somehow. So this book is intended to really demonstrate to people that you can follow your passion, you can be true to your spiritual values, and earn a good living at the same time.
I'm so glad that you've made those distinctions between those three different categories, because what's interesting, you do hear quite a bit on how people who are metaphysical, they kind of get in this kind of angst with money, like they don't want to make it, but they've got to pay their bills too.
Yeah. Well, money is a reality in dealing with the modern world, and you have to have some mastery of it. Otherwise, it's going to suffocate you. So my goal is to help people gain mastery over money, passion, career, and finance, and somehow bring it all together so it's in balance and it's integrated and it's healthy.
Well, I love how your book starts off. It lists, there's 10 illusions, and it lists them off. And the first one starts off with success demands suffering. And I'd love for you to kind of expand on that, because I think a lot of people believe that to be a really true thing.
We've all had lots of role models of people who believe they don't deserve to succeed unless they suffer. And a lot of our parents worked very hard, God bless them, but they instilled us with some idea that pain buys success. And in my experience there, it's just not true. That I found in my own life that of course you have to work, of course you have to make an effort, but if there is joy and ease and flow and trust and connection to higher power behind it all, so somehow the struggle element is lightened or it disappears. And I know that I do my best work when I'm happy and playing and creative and in the flow. And that's when money comes, that's when people show up, that's when support comes, and that's when I'm happiest. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just sort of do a struggle-ectomy on our culture and just encourage people to follow heart and follow spirit and trust with a deep abiding trust that as we're connected to ourselves and our higher power, we'll be taken care of in much more wonderful ways than if we're busting our butt to get somewhere.
Yeah, isn't that true? Well, and I love with your book, you start off like the first sentence grabbed me. And I was like, ooh, so you as an author, you did a beautiful job bringing that together. But it talks about your first quote is, the worlds of business and money are so infiltrated with false beliefs that we hardly see them clearly at all. So when we talk about that, What are some of the false beliefs that you see that people hold about business and money?
Well, one is that people are disconnected from the sense of worth and deservingness. And I do so much coaching, and usually at the core of somebody's money issue is a sense of worth and deservingness. And they don't get that they're lovable and beautiful and powerful, and they deserve to be taken care of by the universe. It's almost like they've slipped into a karma mentality at the expense of grace. And my experience, Marianne, is that grace is as important, or actually more important than karma. So we have sort of a debtor's mentality, and like we owe something. And the fact that so many people are in so much debt. I mean, the statistics are staggering, especially for our country. I mean, trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. So those are all reflective of some belief inside of us that somehow we owe, and somehow there's some gap that we need to fill before we can be solvent. And I think we have to heal that from the inside out. I think working more jobs is not going to solve it. I think we need to recognize that on some very deep level, we do not owe the universe, that we are children of God, we're children of Spirit, and the Spirit is happy to take care of us. And so if we can just get out of this, there's something wrong with me, and there's some deficit I need to offset before I can deserve to be paid. I think that shift in awareness, that shift in perception can make a huge difference, start attracting more money and success to us.
Well, I found that your book, Spirit Means Business, really went into many paradigm shifts for people, because I think a lot of people have heard, some of these old sayings that, money doesn't grow on trees and you have to work hard to get anywhere in life. And so, they're brought up with these limiting beliefs about money and business. And your book really kind of starts peeling those away, saying, you know what, there's another way to do this.
Yeah, beautifully stated. I love the expression peeling it away, because, I'm a student of Course in Miracles, which we've talked about. And the Course says that spiritual success and material success is not based on finding love or finding success. It's based upon peeling away the blocks and illusions that keep us from success. And if we could just get clear about what's real and what's not, somehow everything lines up. So we have to look head on at our illusions and our fears and our resistances and hold them up to the light. And in the light, they cannot survive. Bugs run away when you take the rock away. So, my goal in this book is to, I just beautifully stated, peel away that which is not it, so we can release and reveal that which is it.
I love that, because it has people looking at things differently, and that's what we need. And you talk about that in your book. You talk about, reframing the struggle. And I'd love for you to discuss, chat a little bit more about that, because when people hear that, they're like, well, my struggle's real. What do you mean reframe? I went through these horrible times.
Well, the word reframe is a really powerful word. It means that you take the same situation and you look at it from a different angle, and from that fresh angle you get new insights and see new options. So I'm constantly reframing with my coaching clients. Example, one of my clients was an accountant, and he was fired from 5 accounting jobs. And I asked him a question that was obvious to me but not to him. I said, do you really want to be an accountant? And he said, hell no. So I said, well, why do you keep looking for accounting jobs? He said, well, that's what I'm trained in. So I said, what if, people are funny. So I said, well, what if all these firings are the universe saying that you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, that you don't really belong there? And I said, what would you rather do? He said, well, I love photography, and I like to be a coach, and I like to be outdoors. And so I said, let's explore careers where you could actually do something you're passionate about rather than trying to, So the idea is that, the firing was not a bad thing. People usually do not get fired from jobs they love.
Yes.
Usually there's some mismatch, and they're not doing well, or they don't want to be there, they mouth off to the boss or whatever. And when people are doing what they love, they usually thrive, either independently as an entrepreneur or in a company. So just reframing a job that isn't working usually opens to the door to a job that could be working. So it's the same situation, but just another angle that shows a door where there was a wall before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Alan, I'm going to share a story with you, one of my personal stories, and I think it just kind of highlights the point you just made. When I was younger, I wanted to get into nursing because I thought I really want to help people, and so initially I got into medical assisting, and it was great when you do all the science, and then we got to the part where you had to do the lab work, and all that blood, guts, and gore stuff will make me pass out. So it was a bad career choice. I get nauseated. It's just definitely not good. And so it's interesting when you get these tips. It's like, maybe you should reconsider what you're doing and look at what really feeds your soul and makes you feel like you're fulfilled.
Yeah, very well said. And I love that phrase, feeds your soul. And my whole book is about living from soul rather than fear or ego or personality, and letting universal principles apply to your work, not just going to church or meditating or doing a Course in Miracles. Universal principles can really work at work if you work them. That's a good one, isn't it? So
I may have to quote you on that.
I never really said it like that before, but it's true. And so we really want to cultivate a career, a passion-based career that's cultivated from the inside out. And then all kinds of success comes that doesn't accrue when you work from the outside in.
So when you talk about having a passionate career, I know you talk about purpose in your book. And so how do people discover what that purpose is? Because I think a lot of times you hear people saying, gosh, I'm trying to figure out what my life purpose is. And they have kind of a difficult time getting there.
That's a fabulous question. I deal with it quite a bit. And so there's two ways we can approach it. One is you have to start telling more truth about the little decisions in your life. Example, somebody says, would you like to go to dinner at Thai or Italian? And a people pleaser would say, wherever you want to go. Or a person who is worried about their health would say, well, maybe Thai's healthier. And maybe it is. But more fundamentally, I would try those two places on for size, and one would light me up more. And I would just kind of feel like, Thai feels a little more exciting to me. So I'd say, let's go to Thai. And I know it sounds like a silly example, but really when you start telling the truth about where your passion lives on the little decisions of daily life, you build a muscle. It's like you're drilling a well and sending a pipeline down into the source of your internal guidance. And then you develop a relationship with your higher power and your guiding, whether you call it your angels, your intuition, whatever, it doesn't matter. But there's a force of knowing deep inside you that is very aware of where your good lies and where your happiness awaits. And as you build that muscle, you develop it for bigger decisions as well. So, if you're not telling the truth about where you want to eat dinner, you're probably not going to be in touch with the truth about what you want to do for the rest of your life. And so I encourage people to trust intuition, trust guidance, and trust passion on a daily basis. And then when it comes time to make a big decision, you'll have the tools because you've been practicing it over a period of time.
Well, that's a good way for people to start stepping into that and being able to really define what, on a daily basis, what they're standing for, what their purpose is, what they, feel that, as we talked about, feeds their soul.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the second piece that I alluded to is you have to be impeccably honest and make believe that you know. Funny example is years ago I was doing a workshop and a fellow stood up. He said, I just don't know where my passion lives. I don't think I have any. And I asked him, well, if you did know, what would you know? He said, well, I would skydive and ask a certain girl for a date, and I'd play the guitar. And the whole audience broke into laughter because he really knew. And I was not willing to play the game with him that he didn't know. So, the spiritual path requires impeccable honesty about where your truth lives and where your heart lives and where your spirit wants you to go. And, you just have to move beyond the resistance to knowing and be more willing to know than not know. And when you're willing to tell the truth about what you know, you get to go there.
I love that. Well, and what's so cool is throughout the book, you have sprinkled in everywhere sections that say the myth and the reality. And one that stood out to me is the myth: working more, harder, and longer will yield the result you desire. And the reality, and you can feel like your heart sing when you read this: renewing your spirit will pave the way to the results you desire. And it's like, yes, that's what I sign up for.
That's what we all signed up for, but we forgot it. So it's really true. And a lot of us have been taught that if you just do more, you'll get more. And it's not always true. We watched Christopher Robin the other night. Have you seen that movie?
No, I have not.
It's lovely. It's a Winnie the Pooh kind of spin-off. And in this movie, it's about Christopher Robin, who's grown up and he's a workaholic and he's miserable and his family isn't mad at him because he's never with his kids. And he goes back and he revisits his childhood. He revisits Winnie the Pooh. And Winnie the Pooh says, doing nothing often leads to a very good something. It's a really good line. And I'm not suggesting that people do nothing, but I think we could do more of nothing. And I know personally that when I'm balled up in the office or frustrated, if I could just take a walk or play with the dogs or go ahead and have a good meal or go see a friend or do some yoga or get a massage, in that spaciousness, I see all kinds of things I didn't see when I was pushing. And so one of the big points of this book is that rest and self-nurturing and self-healing are as important, in fact, even more important than work, because they put your work in a whole different perspective that gives you access to answers and guidance you never would have had if you just kept pushing on.
That is so true. That really is so true. I love that you shared that with us. Well, in your book, you talk about a higher power. And I think a lot of times when people think of business and success, sometimes they don't think a higher power kind of is something that is involved in that or is part of that. How does that all come into play?
And I was thinking about that in the bathtub this morning. Actually, see, when I relax, I get good ideas. And I was remembering that many years ago, I was invited to speak at a church, and the minister was driving me to the event, and she said, it was a successful church, and she said, our church is doing well because we're founded on universal principles. And that stayed with me, and I realized that there are certain spiritual laws, whether you call it God or higher power, divine mind, whatever you want to call it, that really work. And they work everywhere because they're laws. They're not rules, they're laws. And laws are infallible. Laws always work. And when you fall back on them, everything starts to work. But we kind of, you become a spiritual person, you meditate, do healing, you pray, and then you kind of make these exceptions where you think, well, spiritual truth will work except in my relationship. That God is not in my relationship. Or, when I go to work, it's dog eat dog, and it's all about competition, all about making money, and then I'll come home and pray. And it's really true that the same principles that make you healthy and make your relationship work will make your business work. So if we can just latch onto these universal laws and trust them and act on them and believe in them, the people I know who are most successful are the ones who have somehow latched onto some higher power. Even Stephen Jobs, he was a student of Maharaji who was Ram Dass's guru. And if you look at the Ken Blanchard books, he calls himself the chief spiritual officer. And Stephen Covey was very, very spiritual. So these guys who are the top business leaders are connected to something that goes far beyond business. And that's why I titled the book, Spirit Means Business, that when you get connected to spirit, it really prospers not only your soul, but your business.
And that is so true, because having that connection, it's just like life gets, I wouldn't say necessarily easier, but in many ways it can be.
Well, it should be. We'll have challenges, but in general, we should be lightening up and getting freer and getting closer to our hearts. And I read about an interview with the daughter of David Cassidy. Remember David Cassidy?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he passed away maybe last year, and his daughter was with him at the time. And she said that his last words were, so much wasted time, so much wasted time. And she said from that moment, she decided that she would never waste any more time, because she didn't want to arrive at her deathbed and say she thought she wasted time. So we all waste time, but we could waste less. And so, over my journey, the quality of my life has gotten more and more important. As far outshadows my business. My business is still important, but I want to be with my family. I want to be healthy. I want to be outdoors. I want to be with my dogs. I want to be with my friends. I want to be with God. I want to do my meditation. And, so I think most people would agree that as you get older, quality of life becomes more and more important, and you're less distracted by the heat of the business world, and you're more interested in just being happy and having inner peace, which does spill over to your business world anyway.
Well, and it's so true, because how many people, when we're at dinner, will pick up their phones and get distracted, and they're not really truly present during that moment.
Yeah.
So to be able to really define the things that make you happy, that feed your soul, that make you feel fulfilled, and being able to follow those things, how empowering is that?
Totally. I mean, you mentioned phones. Some folks did a survey in the early 2000s, and they asked people, how many close friends do you have? And a good answer, an average answer was 10. And then after social media, where everybody has 1 million Facebook friends, they asked people, how many close friends do you have? And the answer was 2. So, posting pictures of your lunch does not equate to an intimate conversation. It's, social media is great and there's a lot of benefits to it. But really, at the end of the day, what did your heart do? Where was your heart? Where was your presence? Where was your life force? Where was your love? And if you had some love and increased in your love today over yesterday, so then it was a good day. If you had more friends on social media, so what? It doesn't necessarily equate to quality of life.
Yeah, that's so true. We grew up in kind of a different era. I remember before iPhones. So it was outside, and you communicated with people, and if you wanted to talk to somebody, either you picked up the regular phone or you went and saw them face to face. So there's a lot more interaction than what we have now. So I think there's kind of I think more people are having kind of a heart pull to have that kind of connection again. It's something that's definitely missing.
In Finland, they have a cell phone throwing contest. It's a natural event to see how far people can chuck their cell phones.
I think I should enter. It sounds like fun.
Maybe. How often have I wanted to do that?
Well, especially if you just throw it in the ocean, right? Because if you want to, what a great way of kind of reframing how to look at how we view not just our business world and our success, but life itself, and what brings us to really that place where we're feeling, just empowered to move forward.
Yeah. A Course in Miracles says the definition of healing is inner peace.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Alan Cohen in regards to his new book and how we can develop prosperity with spirituality. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
If not me, then who? This ethos is driving the Travis Manion Foundation to empower veterans and families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. In 2007, Marine First Lieutenant Travis Manion was killed in Iraq while saving his wounded teammates. Travis's legacy lives on in the 5 words he spoke before leaving for his final deployment. If not me, then who? Guided by this mantra, veterans continue their service, developing strong relationships in the community and thrive in their post-military lives. Visit TravisManion.org and ensure the character of our nation's heroes lives on in the next generation. If not me, then who?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Alan Cohen, who's sharing with us not only his new book, but how we can develop prosperity through spirituality. Now, Alan, before we went for break, we were talking about refocusing and reframing not only our success, but life itself, so we can feel more empowered and be able to move forward.
Yeah. A Course in Miracles says that the definition of healing is inner peace. And so, what shall it profit a man if he gains the world but loses his soul? So, I evaluate the quality of my life by the inner peace that I experience. And I'm not peaceful all the time. I'm caught up in stuff quite a bit. But when I return to those moments of inner peace, I recognize that's what I'm really here for.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely walking your path. It's easy to see because of not just by the light that you bring, but you just bring so much empowerment for people then to step into their own light. And I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you. You as well, my dear.
Oh, thank you. Well, and so to kind of piggyback on that, when we talk about people, when they think about taking care of themselves, it's kind of the last thing that they're doing. They're taking care of kids, business, just everything else. So how important is it that we nurture ourselves through this process?
It's super important. I do a lot of work in Japan, and they're terrible workaholics, and they actually have a word for people who work themselves to death. It's called karoshi, and they're support groups for families, of people who committed karoshi. Basically, you just work until you drop dead. It's tragic, and we're not as bad in our country, but we're kind of leaning in that direction. And so I'm constantly coaching people to, just do something to fill your soul. And, I have a radio show on Hay House Radio. And a lot of my coaching is asking people, what would you be doing differently if you took better care of yourself? I said, well, I'd get together with some friends, or I'd play my guitar, I'd walk in the woods. And I'd say, you know what, you're calling about your relationship, you're calling about your business, but I want to give you some homework. Just, play your guitar and walk in the woods and give yourself half an hour a day of soul fulfillment. And I promise you that if you can do that, you get clearer and clearer about these other problems. And of course, everybody loves to hear that because we usually, fall down on self-nurturing. So anything you could do to give yourself comfort and soothing and just some feeling of ease and release and relief, you deserve it. And so just take whatever. I don't care. I don't care what it is. I had dinner with a guy once, and he was telling me about his habit, his hobby, I should say, of restoring military aircraft. And I thought, boy, that's the most boring thing I ever heard of. You couldn't pay me enough to do that. However, he was so interested and so excited about it that I really enjoyed hearing what he was doing. And he was kind of like turning me on by his passion. And so from that conversation, Marianne, I learned that, it really doesn't matter that much what you're passionate about. If it, people may agree or may like it or not, but if you're truly invested in what you're doing and it makes your heart sing, then it's really a healing thing for you. And that healing will spill over to other people as well. It's not selfish to do what you love. It's really a service to the planet because you're sending out positive energy that people will be blessed by.
Yeah. I love talking to people who are just so passionate about what they do because you can feel that energy. It's just like electric in the air, and you want to be a part of what they're doing, or at the very least hear what they're doing.
Yeah. Our joy is we think that our gift to the world is, the money we contribute or the volunteer work, which all helps, of course. But when you're in your state of joy, everybody you meet is enfolded in this aura of well-being. And you can heal people just by showing up with a whole heart and being happy yourself. That's a real healer, is an uplifter. And so whatever it takes you to be uplifted is what will create you to be uplifting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on that, kind of dovetail with that, in your book, you talk about inner guidance. And I know that's something that you've talked about quite a bit in the past as well. So when you talk about that, what does that look like for our listeners? Because I know it comes in many different forms.
Yeah, everybody has their own connection to their guidance. And I actually do an exercise in some of my programs. I ask people, how do you know when you're getting guidance? And some people say, well, I just get this warm feeling in my chest, or I get a tingling, or the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, or I just feel peaceful for the first time since I've been thinking about that issue, or, I just want to move my body. And so each of us has our own way of getting guidance. But the simplest way I could say it is that real guidance always brings a sense of peace and relief. And I do another exercise in my workshops about exploring the voice of fear and the voice of love. And somebody has a problem. I say, what does the voice of fear tell you about it? And they'll tell me. I'll say, how does that feel? And they'll say, well, it feels constricting and demanding and yucky and obligatory. I'll say, what does the voice of love say in contrast? And I'll say, well, it feels freeing and, liberating, and I feel relief. And I say, well, that's your guidance then. So, sorry about that. And so, if you're feeling burdened by an option, it's probably not it. If you're feeling liberated or empowered by an option, it's probably it. And I always encourage people to meditate or pray or journal or be in nature, because when you get in touch with your spiritual source, you open the floodgate through which real guidance can come. So everybody has guidance. There's nobody who doesn't have guidance. You may think you don't, but it's just that you're not hearing it. So anything we can do to relax and open our hearts and open our mind, we'll let that guidance in.
Well, I love how you explain, what does it sound like? Because then people can really identify with, what that guidance is. And so they can make that distinction when they're getting that gut feeling or that intuition, or maybe they're hearing, which, in some cases, I know every once in a while I do, where I'll hear my spirit guides will say one thing or another. It's taken time to develop that relationship.
Yeah, it's a good point. You can get in words.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the smell. Some people like smell roses. So the spirit will take the path of least resistance to find you. So if you're just, open to listening and hearing and knowing, it'll come. I need to say very honestly, dear, that I've never not received guidance. Sometimes I'm so balled up that I don't hear it in a moment. But anytime I have sincerely asked for guidance, I swear it has come eventually, sooner or later, maybe through a word of a friend, or maybe through reading an article, maybe through a dream, or maybe through a vision of meditation. But my source of guidance, whatever you want to call it, has never failed me. And I believe that's true of all of us if we're just willing to develop that relationship.
Yeah, it really is something and it takes time. I think a lot of people, they don't really realize that it's, in many ways can be a little bit like trial and error as you're going along until you really trust what you're getting.
Yeah, well, it takes practice like anything. If you want to be a musician or a baseball player, you have to practice. So connecting with higher power takes consistent practice. But it's fun. It's the best game in town because the result is the greatest reward in town.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you talked about this when we first started our discussion here. I kind of want to chat about it again. We talked about money, and it's really interesting. In your book, you talk about redefining money, and I'd love for you to share with us why we would do that and what does it mean to redefine our money?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. Many of us have come to associate money with fear and lack. Because we were given models of fear and lack around money, and we've practiced fear and lack, and the media is filled with fear and lack around money. So, we have some pretty dark programming that we need to revisit. So I find it very helpful to define money as energy, and there's nothing good or bad about it. It's it's like electricity. You can electrocute a person, or you can light up a city. So it's really how you're using the energy of money that determines its value in your life. The other piece is to define money as love and define money as support. And so when someone pays me money, what they're saying is, thank you for what you've done for me. You've helped me. And now I want to prosper you by sharing my resources with you so you can have what you want. And when I pay somebody, I want to thank them, and just imagine I'm not just giving them money, but I'm giving them love. I'm honoring them for the service they provided, and I want them to be happy and healthy. I want them to prosper. So, in that context, money ceases to be this dark, burdensome, yucky goop that we struggle with, and it starts to uplift us. And I think the best affirmation I've heard about money, and this is when people used to write this on their checks. Every dollar I spend blesses everyone it touches, enriches the economy, and returns to me multiplied. And people will probably want to replay that, but I'll say it. Every dollar I spend blesses everyone it touches, enriches the economy, and returns to me multiplied. Now that sure sounds like a lot more fun than money is the root of all evil, doesn't it?
It sure does.
So we need to just reframe money as our friend and see it as a circulation, like a divine. You need blood and oxygen to circulate through your body. Well, the circulation of money is what makes the economy prosper. And so when we circulate our money joyfully, generously, so then it makes our personal economy prosper as well.
I love that. I know everyone's taking that down because that is a great mantra to have everywhere in the house, work, house, you name it,
Mhm.
Because it really does reframe how we're dealing with money, and it's not the root of all evil, but it's really just a means to an end that, we can have a life that's prosperous, and it's okay.
Prosperous is our natural state. I mean, if you look at the way God created the universe, there's utter abundance. You look at the water in the ocean. You look at the sands on the beach, and look at the avocados that are growing on trees. And I'm looking at, there's a field in my house, and it's growing. There's plenty of grass. And, it's like God created the universe in utter abundance, not just abundance, but extravagance, and not just enough, but more than enough. And that's our natural state. And if we can really just align with the fact that we were born to live abundantly, that's the result will manifest.
It reminds me of when I walk in the morning, I'll see birds, that are going through the grass, getting bugs. And it's like, they look very well fed. They're not worrying about where their next meal's coming from. They're just out there doing what they're doing.
What did Jesus say? The lilies of the field, they don't work, and yet they're prospered, and God takes care of the birds. How much more will he take care of you? I mean, that's pretty profound wisdom. I mean, Jesus was a great prosperity teacher. I don't think he meant to be a religious figure. I think he meant to be a spiritual teacher. So we can just get beyond the dogma and take what he said, at the spiritual value of it. He's a teacher of tremendous abundance, tremendous prosperity, tremendous enoughness. He's one of the most abundant teachers that ever walked the earth. We just have to align with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of just beautiful messages there, and truths. Well, and so, Alan, gosh, I know you work with tons of people, thousands of people. When you look at Spirit Means Business, what are maybe like one or two of the myths that really stand out for you that, sometimes people are surprised by?
Well, one is competition, that, somehow we've been programmed to believe that competition is healthy and required. And it's just not. I mean, you can slip into you can be motivated by competition, but you can also be motivated by abundance. And, one time I was going to hire this promotional agent. He said, well, who's your competition? And I laughed. I said, the people who are doing what I do are my friends. And I said, I'm not bickering with them, having tug of war over clients. I said, I love what they do, and I support what they do. And, each person in my field has their own personality and their own energy, and they attract people who match them, and I attract people who match me. So to also have the competition mentality, I would suggest to recognize that there's enough of everything for everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you're true to your gifts and talents and you really want to serve, you will attract your just right tribe. I don't want everybody in the world as my client. I want the people who match me. And sometimes it's a lot of people, sometimes it's fewer people, it doesn't matter. But I want to work with the right people, and I want to work with the people I can help the most. And Spirit always sends the right people and sends the wrong people elsewhere. I'm just amazed at how that works. So, one myth is that we have to, compete in order to get what we want. It's just not so. It's a very low-level mentality that fuels that world.
It comes from a source of lack, like, you were talking about. And it's interesting when you think about competition, it's like, oh, we only have a small group of people to work with, or businesses, or whatever that thing is. And then when you don't look at it that way, I mean, it's really all about just being out there and being of service. And like you're saying, the right people will be attracted to your message and benefit from that.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Jobs was a great businessman, but he was also a creative, serviceable inventor. And he was always trying to find ways to make stuff easier for people. And so all of his inventions are about making faster, smoother, easier, softer. And so if we can, let's flip one more illusion. One of the illusions in the book is that, I noted in the book, is that to succeed, you have to get as much as you can and give as little as you can. And it's really the other way around, that when you really try to make your business a service, when you really think about taking care of people, that when you really want to make people happy above all else, then money comes and people show up. People value somebody who really wants to take care of them. And if you really demonstrate to your clients or customers that you want their well-being and you care more about their happiness than getting their money, they're going to sign up and they're going to throw money at you because there's somebody with integrity who really wants to support them.
Mm-hmm. And that shows. I mean, they can see that a mile away.
Yeah. Well, most people can. If you get duped, it's because you were dupable. If you have your antenna up, you can see it a mile away. So that's why I encourage people just to meditate and pray and ask for guidance, because it'll reveal to you, who's in integrity and who's not.
Mm-hmm. I know you have this beautiful segment in your book, and it talks about from love to lack and back. And it's interesting the journey that we take as we're going through this, self-improvement road. There's always something that shows up, and we can, depending on how we view it, really shows us what we need to work on. And your book has a lot of information for people who are looking for that next chapter, that next, level to get to.
Yeah, it's, people want to, as I said, people want to expand in their lives. And some people, unfortunately, get stuck in a rut. And you do the thing that's been making money for many years, and you keep doing it, and you're kind of dying a little inside, but you're making money, and you feel like you're succeeding. But someone said that a rut is simply a grave with the ends knocked out. and so I noticed, Marianne, that if my business starts to dip and people start showing up less and money starts to not come in so much, I always have to go back to the drawing board and ask myself, okay, am I being true to my highest passion? And usually in that moment, I'm not. Like, there's some program I've been doing for a long time that's been successful, and I just keep doing it because I've been doing it. And there's usually some new program I like to do or some new book I like to write that I haven't written yet. And I swear to you, every time I shift from the familiar thing to the exciting thing, people just show up in droves, because I'm true to my passion and I'm true to my service, and I'm staying on the leading edge of my journey, which invites other people who want to be on the leading edge of their journey to meet me there.
Yeah, it's interesting. If we're all doing that, I mean, gosh, what a better world it would be.
Yes, it would. If everybody followed their bliss. Some people say, well, everybody followed their bliss. You have a bunch of bliss nannies laying around. And I'd say, no, you wouldn't. You'd have people who, there are people who want to, it's a funny story, but do you ever see the movie Woodstock?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this segment, but there's this very funny interview with the guy who's the sanitation guy who's cleaning out the porta potties at Woodstock. And he was a happy camper. He loved his job. And, so there are people who would actually choose to do that. So, maybe you and I wouldn't, but, there's something for everybody. So if everybody followed their bliss, everybody would be happy. Everything would get done. Everybody would be prosperous. It's a new paradigm for how the world could work.
Well, I think I have time for a couple more questions here. It's interesting. A lot of times as people are on their spiritual journey in business or just, personally, one of the things that tends to come up all the time is fear. Is there an antidote to fear?
Yeah, love and trust. A Course in Miracles says that there's only two human emotions, love and fear. And love is natural and fear is not. And at any given moment, you're in one or the other. There's no in between. There are many offshoots. Fear has depression and jealousy and anger and rage, and love has joy and creativity. There are all those other emotions or offshoots of those two fundamental emotions. So either you're in love or you're in fear, or either you're coming from spirit or you're coming from ego. And so, if you're in fear, the question to ask yourself what would the voice of love say by contrast? Or if I were not afraid, how would I be addressing this differently? And you have to recognize that behind every fear, there's a lie, that all fear is based on illusion. And so if you can bring to light the lie that is generating your fear, you can usually find out what the truth is that the lie is hiding. So even when our fears come up, they're very fertile opportunities for spiritual growth, because you've kind of hit pay dirt and you discovered where you're unconscious in some way. And by holding that unconsciousness up to the light, you become conscious, and then there's a healing and a success.
I love that. Well, and it's important because I think a lot of times people can kind of get stuck there. And so to be able to know that no matter where you are in your path, Spirit Means Business is a great book to kind of help people move to that next level. And it doesn't matter if you have fear going on, anxiety, you feel really good and you're kind of gung-ho, but you're not quite connected. I mean, it helps you at every level.
It's really a book about spiritual connection that spills over to every aspect of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Alan, where can people connect with you and be part of your community? I know you've got all these great events coming up, to kind of wrap out the year. And also, I'd love for you to share about your radio show, because I know Get Real with Alan Cohen, it comes on every week, right? It's actually several times a week.
Yes, people can go to hayhouseradio.com, hayhouseradio.com. And it's a free show. It's on the internet. Anybody can listen anywhere in the world at any time. It's actually replayed 3 times over the weekend. It's on every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific. And if you sign up for a tiny amount of money with Hay House, you can get access to archives for years and years and years. And people call in for coaching, and you can listen to them being coached, or you can call in yourself. So it's a really fun show. We get a lot done. It's a great venue for healing. And then the main event that I want to share regarding to this topic is that we are doing an in-person live event called Spirit Means Business in Marin County, just north of San Francisco, August 22 to 25. And it's going to be an exciting event. We're going to really take all of these principles and make them very practical, and I'll work one-to-one with many people in the audience. And so if this topic and our conversation interests you, we're going to go really deep and really make it extremely practical for your life. So you can go to my website, alancohen.com, AlanCohen.com. And on the homepage, there's an icon for Spirit Means Business in August in California. I hope people will join me there. That'll be lovely.
Well, and I know you have another event coming up, and we actually initially connected on your last book, and it's a Course in Miracles retreat is what you're having. This one, the Easy Path. And that's in Hawaii. Who doesn't want to go to Hawaii?
Yes, come to Hawaii for 5 days with me in December, 1 to 6, and we're going to really explore the difference between fear and love and how to keep choosing love. It's as simple as that. At a beautiful retreat center on the Big Island with wonderful music by Karen Drecker, a fabulous musician, with great food. And, it's a wonderful personal vacation and a very healing 5 days. So go to my website, alancohen.com, and you'll find an icon for that there.
Well, and there's tons of other information and products and just ways to connect with you. And gosh, of course, your new book, Spirit Means Business. Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It's always an absolute pleasure to play with you, dear. You're doing great stuff, and hopefully we're supporting people to live the highest life.
Well, thank you so much, Alan. It's been such a pleasure to spend time with you, and of course, not only to talk about your new book, but how we can develop prosperity through spirituality. Again, if you'd like to connect with Alan, learn more about his books and also his events, please visit alancohen.com for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.